What would you do if you found out your housemaid was being mistreated? Or worse, what if it ended in a tragedy? Welcome to a tale of mystery and intrigue that rocked the city of Lagos. We delve into the case of Joy Okomadole, a 19-year-old housemaid whose life was abruptly cut short under suspicious circumstances. Initially, her employers, Mr. and Mrs. Fortune Stevens, reported an unfortunate suicide, painting a grim picture of a young woman driven to despair. But as the authorities dug deeper, the suicide claim began to unravel, hinting at a darker reality. Joy, a young woman in the prime of her life, found herself entangled in a web of deceit and cruelty, with no way out. As the story unfolds, it becomes evident that there's more to Joy's death than meets the eye. The police arrived at the scene expecting to find a straightforward case. Yet, as they stepped into the home of Mr. and Mrs. Fortune Stevens, a sense of unease began to creep in. The couple had reported a tragic suicide, their housemaid, Joy Okomadole, found hanging in her room. But as the seasoned investigators began to delve deeper, inconsistencies started to surface. Initial findings suggested nothing out of the ordinary, but as the couple was taken in for questioning, a different narrative began to unfold. The Stevens account of a simple misunderstanding leading to a tragic end seemed to hold less water with each passing minute. The police found it difficult to reconcile the couple's story with the emerging evidence. During the preliminary investigation, the police began to question the circumstances surrounding Joy's death. The position of her body, the nature of her injuries, the lack of a suicide note, everything painted a grimmer picture, one that didn't align with the Stevens narrative. The inconsistencies were too glaring to ignore, leading to the arrest of Mr. and Mrs. Stevens. While the couple maintained their innocence, the police found themselves wrestling with a growing sense of doubt. Their initial findings, coupled with the couple's inconsistent testimony, pointed towards a more sinister reality. It seemed that Joy's untimely death may not have been a suicide after all. The case now takes a shocking turn as Joy's family shares their suspicions. Could it be that Joy's death was not a suicide but a carefully staged murder? And if so, who would want to harm this innocent young woman? The investigation was just beginning and the truth was far from clear. Stay tuned as we delve deeper into this tragic story and uncover the secrets that lie beneath the surface. Joy's family had a different story to tell, one that painted a grim picture. They firmly believed that the couple, Mr. and Mrs. Stevens, were the architects of Joy's tragic end. The family's belief was rooted in the information they received about Joy's work conditions, her salary, and the mysterious role of an agent. Joy was just 19 years old when she started working for the Stevens. She was barely 4 months into her job when the tragedy struck. She was a housemaid, a job that promised her a monthly salary of 15,000 naira. But there was a twist. The money wasn't paid directly to Joy. Instead, it was handed over to an agent who had introduced Joy to the Stevens. Joy, like any young woman, had dreams that were fueled by her hard work and the salary she earned. She wanted to be in control of her earnings, so she requested that her salary be paid directly to her. But this simple request seemed to have sparked a series of unfortunate events. The Stevens were not pleased with Joy's request. They started complaining about her work, saying she wasn't performing up to their expectations. Soon, they stopped paying her salary. Joy, feeling cornered and helpless, decided to quit. She packed her belongings and tried to leave. But fate had other plans. The lockdown due to the pandemic meant that she couldn't find a bus to take her home. She was forced to return to the Stevens house. What happened next is a haunting tale of abuse and cruelty. Joy's family alleges that she was beaten by the Stevens, who were frustrated by her presence. They believe that Joy's death was not a suicide, but a murder disguised as one. The events leading up to Joy's death begin to take a sinister turn. As we delve deeper, the circumstances surrounding Joy's death become more complicated. The root of the issue appears to be centered around Joy's salary. She had been earning 15,000 naira a month, but instead of receiving the payment directly, the money was going through an agent who had facilitated her employment with the Stevens. As time went on, Joy expressed her desire for the salary to be paid directly to her. A simple request, one might think, but this seemingly innocuous request seemed to be the spark that ignited a series of unfortunate events. The couple, Mr. and Mrs. Stevens, were unwilling to accommodate Joy's request. Their refusal led to a deterioration in the relationship between them and Joy, to the point where they asked her to leave their home. On the 10th of April, Joy packed her belongings, ready to embark on a new chapter of her life. However, fate had a cruel twist in store. Due to the lockdown, public transportation was not available, and Joy found herself stranded with no choice but to return to the Stevens residence. Upon her return, the couple expressed their displeasure at her continued presence in their home. They contacted the agent once more, who pleaded with them to allow Joy to stay until the lockdown was lifted, promising to personally come and take her away. Reluctantly, they agreed, but the tension in the house was palpable. It was on the 19th of April when the situation took a turn for the worse. The couple, again expressing their desire for Joy to leave, resorted to physical violence. The agent, helpless and unable to reach Joy due to the lockdown, could do nothing but plead with the couple to stop. The tension escalates, leading to a tragic climax. On April 20th, the situation spiraled out of control. The day started with uncertainty. The couple, Mr. and Mrs. Stevens, had once again engaged in a heated confrontation with Joy, their 19-year-old housemate. Joy's position in their home had become untenable. The couple had made it clear that they no longer wanted her around. The tension was palpable, the air thick with unspoken words and suppressed emotions. Joy had asked for her salary to be paid directly to her, a request that had been met with resistance and further escalated the animosity between her and the couple. The house, which was once a place of shelter, had turned into a battleground, the walls bearing silent witness to the unfolding tragedy. In the midst of this confrontation, the couple made a call to the agent who had brought Joy to them. The agent pleaded with the couple to have patience, to bear with Joy, until there was free movement again due to the lockdown. But the couple was adamant. The tension was boiling over, their anger manifesting itself in harsh words and, allegedly, physical violence. The agent heard the husband tell the wife to stop, that the beating was enough. The line went dead, leaving the agent in a state of worry and dread. Then, on the morning of April 20th, the couple called again. This time, they were asking about Joy. The agent, confused and alarmed, told them to ask Joy directly for any information they needed. Hours later, the police were at the couple's door. Joy was found hanging in her room. The couple claimed it was suicide, a tragic end to a heated misunderstanding. But the circumstances surrounding her death raised questions. Was it really suicide, or was it something far more sinister? In the end, a young life was tragically lost. Joy's dream of a better life, her hopes and aspirations were extinguished prematurely. A life full of potential was cut short, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and a family in mourning. Joy's story is a heartbreaking reminder of the plight of domestic workers worldwide. Often, they are left vulnerable and unprotected, grappling with the harsh realities of exploitation and abuse. This incident underscores the urgent need for better protection for these workers who labor tirelessly behind closed doors, often away from the public eye. We must hold those responsible for such atrocities accountable. Accountability, in this context, is not only about seeking justice for Joy, but it's also about sending a clear message that such inhuman acts will not be tolerated. It's about ensuring that every individual, regardless of their job, is treated with the dignity and respect that they deserve. As we navigate this complex and deeply saddening case, let's remember that justice is more than just retribution. It is about creating systemic change, about making sure that no other domestic worker has to endure the horrors that Joy did. As we seek justice for Joy, let's also work towards creating a world where no other domestic worker has to suffer such a tragic fate.